everyone. Welcome back to part 2, The Perfect Storm to Reform Matt's Prison Perspective. Our last episode left off where Matt was talking about the possibility of joining a program called the Reintegration Housing Unit in Florida. This would allow him to go from a maximum security prison to a medium security prison. Out of all of the episodes we've recorded so far, this particular part is my favorite so far. So I hope you find it as inspirational as I do. So without further ado, here's part 2.
I made it like 3 or 4 months in there, went back through the transport process again, left Mississippi, flew around half the United States, Oklahoma City, Atlanta again, made it to USP Coleman, which is right above Orlando, Florida.
Is it the last place you were at?
No.
No? More? Hold on.
It's actually the first place I was at.
Oh,
it's the first real place I was at. And what this place is, this Reintegration Housing Unit, it's a program where you get up every day, you say an affirmation with the rest of the group, and it's about transformation and change. Not a lot of people take it seriously. They're just trying to, skirt the program and just, keep a low profile, not really take anything serious and get what they're getting. And you can't do it in there. Those people never lasted. They would never make it. Only the people who are really working the program and walking it with, even when the door is closed, like just trying to be the best version of themselves that they could be, are the only people that ever made it out.
Wow.
So I began to take it seriously. I was thankful to be there. I was so glad. This is the first time I was able to actually I talked to my dad on the telephone. I talked to my brother on the telephone. I talked to my girlfriend on the telephone, or whoever I thought that girl I used to know was on the telephone. And this was 13 months after I left the county hold. This is 13 months. 13 months from the time I was incarcerated. So it took me about 9 months. I didn't hear or talk to anyone other than a letter. I exchanged letters. Mr. Oliver wrote me. A good friend of mine, Jess Sinkfield, started writing me, and these guys were, beginning to talk positive and give me words of encouragement. They sent me a couple of books, and in this program, she gave me this cart full of paints, right? She's like, heard you're a great artist. So you want to do the murals here? And I was like, well, yeah.
Why not?
So she let me do one, and then it was like I had my own cell. I had like a cart full of stuff that you're not even supposed to have like in your possession, and chemicals and paintbrushes and stuff people make swords with, and and I had it made in there, and I started doing this thing at the program where I would facilitate the program each morning, read off the minutes, introduce the, speaker for the day. And on Wednesdays, I would do this thing called Front Street, because all anybody did in there was run around and gossip. It was like, did you hear what kind of bills so-and-so ran up? Or did you hear about so-and-so and so-and-so getting busted doing whatever in the other night up in the thing?
Drama.
Yeah, exactly. It was like the knitting, the hen house or whatever.
Oh my God.
Worse than high school. It's a lot like high school, except without the girls.
I feel it's more like my neighborhood HOA Facebook group.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's what they did. And I was like, you know what, you guys, you're all in this little fishbowl here. Everybody's, same gossip going around all day. So I was Front Street. So I would make awards. Oh, this guy's so nasty. This guy's so dirty. This guy's disgusting. This guy stinks. You know what I mean? So I'd make so I took a bunch of pieces of cardboard and like cut up like the IOU card, and I painted it and wrote a little IOU on there. It's like for the guy who doesn't pay his bills. And we'd pass out the awards and basically put them on blast in front of everybody. We'd give them like a candy bar. I would go around and raise money, get people to donate, so we could give them a little gift, and it wouldn't be so painful, and make a joke out of it, right? And it was super funny. We ended up doing like a little comedy thing with this black guy who was my cellie. He was from Alabama. He sang really good, and we did it, and we went through the program, and we had it made for a second in there. This unit was at FCC Coleman, which is the biggest federal correctional complex in the nation. There's a USP there. There's a drop yard there. There's a women's prison there. There's a medium there. There's a low and a camp. And there's a whole electrical water treatment substation, whole little city of infrastructure and supportive facilities around this federal correctional complex. When you go in and out, you can like Google it, and it's insane what this place looks like.
Yeah.
And this particular prison had won a lawsuit back in 2017 because the guys out there were, I don't know how to say this, like, I don't know how to censor this or whatever, but they were
harassing, right? Is that the story?
well, let's just say sexual harassment.
Yeah.
Okay. So what they would do, they would be really good at playing pocket pool, if you know what that is. So the guards, the female guards, won a lawsuit because of all like the creepos walking behind them with their hands in their pockets. So they took all the pockets out of the pants, and they made all the women guards wear these shirts with smocks that would cover up their rear.
So they're kind of like trying to do with the right thing.
It was.
I mean, it's a night and day difference from what you were explaining from your experience. I feel like it's the first time you maybe even like laughed, like felt like you could breathe.
Yeah, it was a big deal. Like, you should see the murals that I've painted up in this place. Like, I painted this one mural that was like 40 feet tall and 150 feet long. And like on the outsides of the cell doors is like a big tree trunk was like 4 cells wide. And people were like, hey man, I'll put $100 on your books if you ask Counselor McCoy to change cells with us so I can have the tree house.
Wow. That is the coolest thing ever.
It was cool. So in that unit is when, I had access to books. They put a little library in one of the rooms there, and I found, I went through the Robert Greene books, the Masteries and 48 Laws of Power, which are all great and everything, but at the same time, the gangs are writing their bylaws from these books, and I read, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey, and they had a program in there that was the entire workbook. And I went through that program and lived the book. Like, you would have to put the practices into play and log in how you, put this particular practice in play each day, and then come back and talk about it, and then, converse with
people. Like therapy, book club.
Yeah, there was like 8 guys in it, and we all took it very seriously. They were each other accountable, like in real time. And so, I don't feel like you, and we had to talk a certain way in there, and we could not use like overgeneralizations, like everybody does this, or I feel like. Yeah, we had to use I feel statements when we talked, or we get called out. And
you do that. Like, those are principles that you do now. Like, because you hate when I talk in general. You are very, like, that's very, very, very much you. And, like, anytime that you tell me part of this story, 'cause, again, through this whole entire thing that you're talking, like, there's something that I've never heard you say in this, right? It's just eye-opening to me that this is such... that moment that genuinely I feel like changed your perspective of, I see the light in the tunnel, right? Because we talked about before where you always had these purposes in life of money, I don't know, like fame, whatever it may be, but these books sound like they put your mind into place to have a different purpose.
Right. It was weird to me because of me growing up in this private Christian school, and I had these values and these things inside of me. And then when I read that book, and it was something in that book that bothered me, is that, he said that people who are God-centered are going to reflect and look at everything from the church's point of view or the church's perspective. And I looked at that and I was like, well, that's not right. But then I thought about it, because there's a difference between being, a good spiritual, principle-centered person, right? Now, you could have principles that are messed up,
right?
But you could all, it's not what we're talking about. So as long as we're not taking that out of context, let's assume that, your principles are honesty, sacrifice, love, long-suffering, the Beatitudes, the fruits of the Spirit, those things are your principles. Then you are living that's the perfect scenario right there of, what about being a principle-centered person versus a family-centered or money-centered or friends-centered or a God-centered person. And to me, it opened up all these questions. So, because to me, it was like, get the money, like figure out how to get it, and then figure out how to take that and multiply it, build a business, and ultimately, hopefully you won't be breaking your back by the time you're 60 years old. You might got another good 20 years to build something, Matt, before you get out. And it's all about the money. So I saw myself there after 5 years of being released, and I had everything that I wanted. I went through my process and my steps in real time in my brain, just sitting there. And so, it'll take me a few months to do this, and it'll take me a few months to do that. It'll take me a year to do this. And here I am, sitting in my living room. First house I ever bought, first new truck I ever bought. I have everything that I could think about imagining right here around me. My garage is full of tools. There are people pulling up saying, hey, nice yard, Matt. It's all there, right, in my imagination. And I'm like, now what? What do I do now? You know what I mean? Like, what is the point of doing this if it's just serving myself? If it's what I want, that's what I want. I want the money, right? And I was like, well, it can't be about what I want, So I was like, money can't be your end all be all, because when you don't have it, you're going to be stressing, and when you do have it, you're going to be not stressing. And money isn't the objective. The objective is service, and that's when that all started to hit me right there, because every time I would see that, money, and the guys in there would say that too, like the real true blue, like, the real MFers that are in there that are being honest, they're like, you can't do it for the money, man. You cannot do it for the money. The money can't be your motivation. It cannot. And that was the base of all these programs.
What I find just so incredible about that story is, no matter where people come from, the human spirit and the human desire to have more to life. I'm almost getting emotional just thinking about that, right? Because you and I are so different. I'm so different from, we're just all so different. But these are questions that I think everyone will encounter at some point in their life. And
it brings out the core human being.
Yeah. And it's do you think that without, I mean, I know the answer to this because it's obvious why we're here, but your whole entire life led you to this moment. And if it worked out any other way?
I believe it with all my heart.
Right.
And I know I've said this to you before, but and I'll say it now, that I don't think that I would be able to not, if I had a chance to go back and not do it and then do something different, I don't believe that I would take that chance. I believe that I would go through with it. I would make those feet walk right back into that bank, and I would go through it. If that's what it took to get me here, then it may be a little bit for some people. And to be honest with you, after, I went through that tough issue or whatever with the being transported, it wasn't but just a few months until I had an idea of where I wanted to go and the right reason to go there. I didn't know how I was going to get there. And to me, it was all about, prison was an opportunity for me. It was an opportunity for me to experiment with my character, for me to experiment with walking that life and interacting with all kinds of different whacked up people, So it's a perfect environment for you to be able to build your own character and your own principle.
Well, because you described it one time as, it was a really incredible imagery. I think for everybody listening, it's when you are going down the burn path, you said God will start taking away things in your life.
Yeah.
Right? To the point where you have nothing, so you have to rebuild your life. It's this point of stripping away the unimportance.
That's right.
Either by choice or by force.
It's true. And it's happened to me over and over and over. And it's almost like the most substantial evidence of the higher power that I've ever seen, smacking me right in the face, is every time. Every single time is when you are not looking, I'm speaking figuratively here, but when you're not looking up, then, and you're looking left, right, up the street, down the street, you're looking over where the bank is, you're looking where the checkbook is, you're looking where the pretty girls are, you're looking where the shiny truck is, you're looking where the next job is, or you get my point, right? Those things are your focus, systematically, each one of those things will begin to get plucked from your life. No, I don't care who you are until you have no other choice but to look up. And that looking up is this. It's like something like a beam of light comes down into your chest and transforms you into someone that, you know what? I am happy now. I have a purpose that doesn't involve these rat race or these things or these my objectives and schemes, and it's something else. And you're never going to be able to get that until you start investing in people and start investing in hope and principles instead of your wants, because your wants are going to be fulfilled. And then what? You're going to have some more wants, and you have some more wants. You're just going to lead a life of filling these empty holes. And it sounds like an empty life to me. And that's what I was doing. That's what everybody does, I think, to a degree. I mean, I know I'm not the only one who's discovered this or anything.
Right. I'm
just now discovering it. Maybe everybody else knows. And I'm just like, wow, this is astounding. But
right. Well, and so all of that, right, the stripping away, realizing that you know who you are at this point, right? You feel like you've built an identity. You realize there's more to life than the monetary things of the world, right? So what are you going to
do? Well, I feel, like I said, I felt like it was a perfect opportunity for me to begin putting it into practice, about walking, about building experiences and building habits. And one way I did that was through this program. I tried to be a positive person. People would come up to me, Jones, you're a positive guy. And I really was. I was really someone who would always be able to point out the positive side of things, no matter what their issue was. And, I would begin drawing, in my spare time. I had a vision. Like I said, I reverse engineered my plan here. And I was like, there has to be something, a place, an institution, a service, that gives people the opportunity to be able to build themselves, define themselves, and get their identity, because that's what guys in here need. People, I would have people sitting around me in a group, not in a sanctioned group, like literally just walking up to like there's a meeting there at my cell every day of people with their notebooks out asking, and it's because I'm working on this, this logo, this Due South Design Center logo, this building, these saws and offices and shipping and receiving and organizational structure and, how it works, the inner workings and the infrastructure of the entire thing. I sat there and just
salaries, we had salaries and
what it would take to run, what it takes to everything, down to how many sheets of paper we need to order every month for the copy machine, labeling, the design, and to me, it was crazy because I was like, you can't have nothing without a logo. You know what I mean?
There's something there, though, right? That's identity.
Yeah. But until you got something to put on all those things, it's a thing until it has a name.
Yeah.
Until it has a label. And I worked on that thing for so long, like years. I even when a year before I got out, I perfected it. And initially, I wasn't sure what I was going to call it, but it took shape, after about a year of it, because, I knew that I was going to call my company Due South Design, and what else would I call it than the Due South Design Center?
Right.
Originally, I had called it The Service, and it had a TS that looked like the DS in my diamond. Instead of a D, it was a T, and that's what it was, like the service of,
Yeah. And one of the next episodes we're going to release is specifically the meaning of like due south and how that kind of came to mind. And I'm really excited for that episode because it's going to be a little bit more artistic, like the robbery episode. And in that episode, we'll definitely talk a little bit more through that planning in detail and how we hope it actually looks in the future. So definitely stay tuned to that. But now that, you've got this point here, what's next, right? This program is supposed to get you into a medium security prison.
Well, I made it.
You made it. Spoiler alert.
I graduated the program and I stayed there as a mentor for another couple of months.
Mm-hmm.
And the place, for all that it was good for, it was a bad place.
Right.
It had
prison.
It was a lot of bad people coming in and out of there, and the counselor in there, Counselor McCoy, she was an angel. If there was anybody else there, I don't know how this would have happened, because she gave me so much encouragement and so much freedom. Anything that I wanted, she let me have it. She would ask me, she'd call me in her office and say, Matt, do you want to call anybody? Can you use my phone right now? Call anybody you want. Just because, I made the program go while I was there. Everybody felt good. I'm not trying to play myself up, but she did that, right?
She empowers you.
She was kind and she was sweet, and she put up with so many of these dirtbags spitting in her face every single day. And she ran that unit. Nobody else came in there. No lieutenants came in there. No one else. That was her unit. And everybody hates people. Like, you tell people you come from a RU program in there, it's like saying I just, it's the worst. It's worse. It's basically like saying I joined a child molester snitch program.
What it is. The program.
What it is.
So basically, it's like being like you're soft, or like you're
no.
Like,
it's more like you're the people like that, and they're not walking in the yards. They can't even go to a drop.
You outcast yourself intentionally by joining a program like that.
Exactly.
But I
made it to a medium.
Right.
So once you get to a medium, there are no gang politics there. You can do your man time, is what they call it. That's what they call it. It's called man time. Either you're on black time, you're on white time, you're on gang time, or you're on man time. There's some other times too, but we won't talk about them right now. So anyways, I get there and I'm there. I make it to the medium in Manchester, Kentucky, and the place was beautiful. I could see mountains. It was snow when I got there. There was snowy mountains surrounding this place. I was literally walking outside. There are different housing units. Instead of a big square, you walk across here, and there's a little pond and trees growing, and turkeys and deer, and hawks and owls screeching. And I'm at this place for like 2 weeks, going out to the yard, going to chow with my paperwork in my hand, looking for my shot caller. And finally they're just like, dude, there's nobody here, man. Like, you
literally carry around a piece of paper with you?
Yeah, your judgment and committal from your.
You have to have that on you like all times?
No, not at all times, but when you're touching at these other places, when I touched down, even when I was in a shoe, I'd have my paperwork with me so that people could say, oh, okay, you're not a freak.
Proof.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay.
Anyway, this is what I did. So, and then once you're vested, what I mean, once you're vested, you're good. You don't have to carry it around anymore. So I was at this place for about, I want to say, a year and a half, maybe a little more, 2 years. I think I was there, and I probably did at least one substantial major, like a big, huge sleeve, arm piece, back piece, leg piece per week. For the entire 2 years I was there, I put out the most artwork that I could put out. There were no programs at this place. I worked at a sewing factory for about 8 months there, where we sewed shirts and vests and tents and Army helmet covers for the Air Force and the Navy.
Wow.
Yeah. And I ran this cool little sewing machine. I forget what they call it. It was called I don't know, but it did this, like the double stitching on your shirt, that thing right there. It does that, and I was zip it through there, and I was an artist. I made more money and supported myself than most people in there did at all, just by drawing t-shirt designs, book cover design, movie posters. There was guys in there that would write films and movies, and they had all these different fashion designs and ideas. There was a lot of people in there with money, a lot of what's his name? BG, remember the Cash Money Millionaires, Lil Wayne, the Bling Bling, the guy, that was his hit. Anyways, he was in there. I did a tattoo on him, seen him every day. He was a drug addict. Who else was in there? DMX was in there. Michael Douglas's son was in there.
So a bunch of like celebrity inmates.
High profile convicts is a big deal, is like a common thing in there. So nearing, I'm thinking, well, I got about 2 years, maybe 2.5 years left if I'm lucky. And this place is just kind of like, I'm going to put in for a program because I feel like my programming, literally my programming is starting to stagnate. I've read the books, I've walked the walk, and I honed my business down to where I could see that people treated me a certain way, they talked to me a certain way, they interacted with me a certain way, they interacted with me in respect. I carried myself with punctuality and respect and strictly business always. Even when I was working out, it was like, all right, we're doing this at this time, we're doing this at this time, we're gonna run a few laps, and then we're going in. Shower time, eating, and then I'm watching a movie later on. Tomorrow, it's tattoos all day. So I had a schedule, I had a little book, a little calendar I carried around everywhere with me. So I put in for a program, the RDAP program, Residential Drug Abuse Program, and you're supposed to get a year off for this program. And I knew I wasn't getting the year off because my crime is classified violent. And just because of that factor right there, I don't get a year off. Whereas I'm watching 90% of the people go through and get the program and get it 1 year knocked off of their sentence and get, a year of halfway house. So that's like 2 years off of their sentence. So I did the program. I went to this place to do the program. It was in Marion, Illinois. I get to Marion. I'm like, okay, touchdown in another spot. When I started hearing rumors about this place before I get there. And it's the prison that they built in the 80s to replace Alcatraz with.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So there's a terrorist wing there now.
Wow.
It's home to every Dateline superstar, child rapist, multiple serial murderer, sex crime murderer. Like 70% of the population on this yard are these types of individuals.
So genuinely, like people, celebrity, like people know their stories.
Yeah, in my unit, you could sit out there. Like I can remember when I first got out to the unit, and the guy was like, "Yeah, that guy's got a novel on him. That guy's got 2 Dateline specials in the novel. This guy." Yeah, they're like just in the unit. I'm talking about just in our unit, not in the whole prison. Like when you walked out, remember I told you about the rec yard earlier, guys are doing burpees and basketball and, handball and all that stuff. You walk into the inside rec yard of this place, they're playing Magic the Gathering, Dungeons and Dragons. Somebody's over there painting somebody's toenails. There's someone else giving someone a massage.
What?
And it's like
another
holding hands, watching TV.
Another dynamic you had to learn. Oh my God, that's so crazy.
So, but the program unit wasn't like that. This program was very serious, and it was, fold your corners on your bed. You had to, iron your pants with a crease on them, and your collar had to be a certain way, and you could not speak a certain way, or you got pulled up.
Wow.
Mr. Jones, hi, my name is Mr. So-and-so, and I'm pulling you up today because you're using passive-aggressive communication.
Big word.
I'm pulling you up today because you're overgeneralizing, and when you overgeneralize, you tend to back people in and blah, blah, blah. So we did that every single day. Every day there would be a list of pull-ups, there would be a list of push-ups, and that went on for about a year.
And what year was this? 2018, 19? Like
this was
19?
It was just before COVID. So we were
really?
2019. Yeah.
Wow.
It was 2019. When I graduated this program, I put back in a transfer request. It was called a 325 to be transferred back to my parent institution. Because I was sent to this place that I put in for the program. Well, they were like, sorry, Mr. Jones, this is the last stop for everybody. So you're going to leave from here, or you're going to sit in the shoe for the next however long. So I sat in the shoe, and it was, you're supposed to be, if you're in shoe for more than 6 months, they'll ship you no matter what.
Wow.
So I was like, I'll just sit in here for 6 months. So I sat in there for 6 months. It's like time for my transfer. So they took their time sending up the transfer, and it took them about 45 days to send it off. And they come back to me like 2 months and said, Mr. Jones, sorry, your transfer got messed up. We're going to have to push it through again. So they took another 2 months to send it through, and did the same thing. They're playing a game with me. They did some, in that shoe there alone, in that cell, like nothing. I was in there for 13 months. And it was the deal sealer for the programming, the getting shipped to this accidental place, being in Manchester, going Mrs. McCoy, the psychology lady coming through with the RHU program, and the crazy Sally and me jacking the slot and going back and getting beat up to even be pressed down that road from the start was all like, to me, it was a perfect setup for me to be able to execute what I'm doing right now. Mm-hmm. And not only that, it's like it kept going. About 7 or 8 months before I got out, I posted a post on Facebook reaching out, looking to reestablish relationships with positive people, because I wanted to take my life in a positive direction, and I wanted to be able to communicate with people who had their shit together, Mm-hmm. And this girl, reached out to me, and she befriended me and was really, really good to me. She looked out for me, and sent me some supplies and helped me with some clothes when I got out. She gave me a ride to the halfway house. She helped me get a good phone and helped me build the basics for building this company. She was even going to basically say she employed me, and so that I could work for myself in the halfway house, because it's illegal to own your own business in the halfway house. So, but moving back, I actually ended up going back out to the yard. So after 13 months in the hole, I was like, you know what? Forget it. Just put me back on the yard. So I came back to the yard, and I've been, I'm blackballed in the white people community, because, they're still playing that politic game, even in this place, right? This place was a USP.
Of you being hot?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
This place was a USP, and it's full of, somebody in there's got something on their jacket. If they're there, it's because they got some type of security threat factor on their jacket. So anyways, I was like, whatever. So my good buddy, he was from Chicago. He's a vice lord shot caller for the yard. He's like, you come live with me, Matt. We can finish up on my tattoos or something, So I was like, okay, cool. So when guys come in and they're vice lords, they have to come talk to him. It's like, hey, I need a cell. Like, you can stand out in the unit, and this is the way prison works. Like, those are Native American cells. Those are GD cells. Those are blood cells. Those are Crip cell. That's a Native cell. That's a Crip cell. Those two are white cells. That's a white cell. It's a white cell. And if you're white, you're looking for a white, it's real estate in there. And sometimes people move out, and that's when people come up and they rent these cells. They decide who stays there and who doesn't stay there. So these vice lord guys would come up, and they'd look for my buddy City and say, hey, I need a place to go. And he'd tell them where to go, or he'd say, you can be a cellie with me for 2 months, but then when a bunch of work comes in, you gotta go. And so he got out, and he said, this is your cell now. I don't care if you want to call it a vice lord cell. I don't care if you want to call it a white cell, but it's your cell. And I was like, oh, yeah, all right, cool. I'm doing it now. So, and that was right at the peak of COVID.
Wow.
But when he left, we had been on COVID lockdown for like 2 months. I can remember one day we were coming back from yard, and I saw on CNN on one of the TVs in the day room, it said, Fed declares lockdown nationwide for COVID. And I'm not kidding you. 5 minutes later, the deuces went off, which I can't believe I mentioned that. That's what they call them in there. Like when somebody hits the deuces, that means the alarms go off and you got to hit the deck, or within like so many seconds, you'll be killed, right? The guys will shoot you, literally. So if there's somebody getting stabbed over there on the yard, which I completely skipped over that part. I was like my third day in prison coming out of chow, and I see these guys, like, it look like they're running, right, in a circle. They're like running in a really small circle, like a 10-foot radius circle across the yard and the walkway, and the sun's coming up behind them, and it's very surreal. It's a very surreal memory, right? And I see this pink mist, right, like rising up in the sunset, and these guys are running around this small circle. Well, I got closer, and then I hear the deuces go, you know, and they're not running. There's a guy in the middle, and he's getting stabbed up. And this red mist is his blood splattering all over.
Oh my God.
And literally it looked like powder. It was like it was craziest thing.
Special effects, real life special effects.
It was crazy. I don't know what the deal was or why it happened or whatever, but they were some type of Hispanic gang, and they were killing one of their own.
Day 3 in
the third day that I was on.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I didn't even know what was going on. And there was this guy who was like, "It's the deuces, get down." So,
well, so COVID happens. You find out that you're gonna, I'm assuming you're getting close to your sentence, right?
Sure.
You're waiting for, what is that like to be like, okay, when do I get out? Like, how do you know?
Well,
and it's COVID. Like, are you even getting out? Can they hold you there longer for the lockdown? Like,
we're hearing all kinds of rumors. Like,
okay,
they're closing halfway houses. You're already being quarantined. You're gonna have to quarantine in some lockdown facility for 6 months. There's all kinds of rumors going around there. But I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna keep riding it out. I'm getting out of here. You know what? I'm did my time. So. You get so much halfway house time in there. Because I graduated the program, they gave me 10 months of halfway house, which is just about unheard of. You don't get any more halfway house time than maybe 10, 11 months. A year is the max that you can get. You can only get so much halfway house time based on the length of your sentence. So a guy with 3 years, he's only going to get 3 months halfway house.
Okay.
A guy with 5 years, he's going to get maybe 7, 8 months of halfway house time. I had 77 months. They gave me 10 months.
Explain real quick. Is that like a blessing because it's like paid for, right? I'm assuming, you have to pay and like why court?
Federal halfway house time is different from state halfway house time.
Okay.
You're probably used to hearing people, he's in the halfway house in Mount Juliet or Lebanon or Hermitage or Hendersonville or whatever.
Not the same?
Not the same.
Okay.
No, because those are guys like private organizations or institutions. Like sometimes they're even felons that own like that house across the street, right? And they'll say, I'm a halfway house. I've got bedrooms. And they'll have rules. They get inspections from the state and stuff like that. Guys come in and live there. And if they're acting messy or breaking curfew, they'll kick them out. They're drinking or doing drugs or not paying attention to the rules, they will kick them out. Federal halfway house is run by federal staff, federal employees. It is regulated and ran. So it is paid for, and it's mandatory for your reintegration into society. So you have to do at a minimum 30 days of halfway house in the feds. So it's mandatory, and it also is part of your sentence.
All right. So you get your release date, right?
Yes. I finally get my release date. I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's like December 7th, December 10th, December 11th, something like that, of 2020.
Wow.
And it's peak COVID time, right?
The world is a mess.
The stadium is transformed into, what are they doing? Testing centers or whatever. You remember?
Yeah, the girls are dressed through testing. Yeah.
Yeah. I get to the halfway house. It's amazing. You know what I mean? It's outstanding. I mean, it's like I'm right in the middle of downtown Nashville. We are, right about, around about, anyways, it's right next to the Westin downtown. it's great. I mean, it sucked. Don't get me wrong, but I was there. I was wearing brand new street clothes. I had a phone. It was all the creature comforts that someone could imagine.
Yeah, well, that's also like you have to not only navigate years of technology, the world literally no longer as we all know it, even in, the world. And I know I don't think people realize that you had to how do I find my birth certificate? It's you come out with the skin on your the skin on your back, clothes on your back, figuring out how do I get a license, right? Nothing.
So when I got there, I had, a couple of friends, they could come visit you and stuff like that. I was basically on my own, and I had to depend on the resources and the staff to be able to, navigate through the things that I needed. And, this is still it's still happening today, but, the staff there were completely they're not going to help you. Only a couple of people in there were really good people. And, that's how I ended up within 2 weeks of being out. I had a job. I had a way to get there. I was also facilitating a way for the BOP to fund and support a recovery program for people who wanted to do my preventative relapse prevention plan. And that's and the assistant administrator there, Mr. Mills, basically, if it wasn't for him, none of that would have been done. I wouldn't even have been able to probably get a job if it wasn't for this guy. There was so many things that he, made happen. He's one of the best mentors that have helped me through this situation.
I think what's crazy, anytime I also hear a story, and even if you reflect back in anyone's own personal life, is for your story in particular, there are these pivotal moments, of course, but these pivotal people. Or if it wasn't for McCoy, Mr. Mills, I can't even tell you, Mr. Oliver, right? These people have been perfectly placed in your life to put you where you are. And I'm happy to tell the listeners that we actually are going to have Mr. Mills on an upcoming episode where, I've had the pleasure of getting to know him as well, and hearing him talk about you was one of the things that I knew you were really a remarkable person from his perspective. Having somebody come fresh out of federal prison and seeing something in you, just like all the other people did, that was one of the most impactful conversations I've ever had. So I'm excited that, really, really soon we'll have him on, and he's been listening, to every single episode since and encouraging on the way. And I think that's a really great place to end this episode, because then we can talk about the halfway house and everything that happened there and leads us now out of prison, right where we are now. So
I agree. I'm looking forward to it too. And I love him. And it was, an aha moment for me to be able to receive that back from him, recently, to hear him say, I believed in you. And, and from Mr. Oliver to Jess Sinkfield and Jeremy Hamner and these perfect mentor collection that I've had to teach me and show me, how to basically be a good man and be strong. He's one more perfect piece of the puzzle for me.
Absolutely.
I'm looking forward to hearing it.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for listening to this episode. We appreciate all the time that you spent. I know this episode was a longer one, but I hope it was worth it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Make sure to subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen. We have some pretty incredible episodes coming your way, so make sure you engage with us on Instagram and TikTok and let us know what you want to hear about. We'll make sure to include it in the future. Also, make sure to follow us on all social media to find out more ways you can support the podcast. Thank you again so much for taking the time to listen.